Let's see how to create a pivot table in Microsoft Excel. This is the dataset that we are going to analyze. It is the tips dataset, which contains information on the total bill and the tip given for a given meal, whether the person who paid for it was a male or female, whether that person was a smoker or not, which day the transaction happened, the time of the meal, meaning it's either a lunch or a dinner, and the size, that means how many people were present at the table. Okay, so if you go to insert now, so while I click somewhere within this table here, anywhere, go to insert, I go to pivot table, which is on the top left under insert. I click that, and then it basically finds that this is the data table that I'm going to use. Okay, and then the new worksheet means it will create this pivot table in a new worksheet. I say okay, and there we go. It's empty now because we haven't selected anything yet. So you see on the right, you can see the column names we had in our data table. We see columns, rows, values, and so on. So let's see now. If I select a day for rows, I can see the names of each of the days here. Right, there are 4 unique values basically: Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, and Friday. So what can I do with this? So if I again put day on the values column, what it does, it will basically count how many days there are in my data set. So Sunday has 76, Friday has 19, and so on. Okay, in total there is 244 days. That means there are 244 transactions in the data set. Okay, so this is one thing. Now let's continue. So let's look at the smoker. Let's put that in the column. So you see it basically builds on top of what we have. Let's make this bigger too, by the way. Okay, cool. So what we see here now is each row is a day. Each column is now the no and yes. You see, these are whether the person is a smoker or not. And on the bottom row, you can see the total for each column, and on the on column D, basically, you can see the total for each row. So 76. Remember, these numbers were the number of transactions for each day. And so basically, within each day, I'm now separating it further into whether the person who paid for it was a smoker or not. So 57 and 19. So 57 no and 19 yes, and so on. Okay. Okay, so we can continue building on this idea. Okay, so if I add another thing here, so let's say I want to see the effect of time as well. By the way, I'm just counting the values here, but let's see whether lunch or dinner makes a difference. So I can put that into, you can choose either rows or columns. I'll go with rows. So what happens now is basically within each row, which were the days, it's further separated into whether it was a lunch or a dinner. So you see on Sunday, it's only dinner. Interestingly, there is no lunch at all. That might be due to the restaurant opening later than usual for Sundays, and only accepting for dinners maybe. Or it just might happen that there was no one for lunch. Interestingly, Saturday is the same pattern, so it might be actually that on the weekends it just opens up late and it only accepts people for dinner. So on Friday and Thursday, you see we have both dinner and lunch. So within the dinner and lunch, we can see, let's see, there's more people who come for dinner on Fridays. For Thursdays is actually the opposite. There's only one dinner and most of the people are coming for lunch. Okay. So you can see that pivot table allows us to break down into further and smaller pieces without much of an effort. So it's a very nice tool for analyzing your data. So one thing, if you keep adding more, of course, it becomes a bit more and more difficult for you to grasp what's going on. So you need to be careful and not go too wild on that. Okay, so now let's get rid of those. So let's put day on the rows, right? So we have day on the rows. So I'm interested in seeing the total bill on the columns. Okay. So since total bill is basically a numeric value, you see each unique value within that numeric column is shown as as its own column. So we will come next to that, how to fix that. But I want to see here within the combination of the days and the bill. Let's see whether, let's check the tip value. Okay, so here when I put tip on the values area, it basically selects sum, meaning the summation. But I think instead of looking at the summation of the tips, it would be more interesting to look at the average tip. So basically I want to see the average tip for each day and based on a binned value of the bill value. So how did I do this, by the way? So when you come here at the bottom right, you see values. I selected tip, and it was showing sum of tip by default. I click this arrow here, it shows value field setting. So I'm going to change that setting. So instead of sum, it was sum by default. I'm going to select average. You can see here different values like maximum, minimum, and so on. So standard deviation, variance. So these are also useful if you're interested. But for now, let's go with average here. Okay, so now it's the average tip for each day for every single unique value in the total bill column. All right. This is not very nice. You can see that, since it's numeric, it's basically every single value is being covered there. That's not nice. What I will do, I will group these into just like a histogram is created. So I will create bins rather than each unique value within a numeric column, so that any value within the minimum and maximum value for that bin, meaning that fall within the thresholds, will be basically added into that bin. Okay, so how do I do that? Any of these columns will work. So you can click any of this and then right click on it. When you do right click, okay, you see grouping here. Okay, click that, and now we are going to create the bins. So you select the minimum value, you select the maximum value, and then the increase between these values. So I will put minimum as 1, and I'll just make maximum 51, and increase by 10. That's good enough. So if I click yes now, you see it has been grouped. So each of the total bill values are now shown as groups. So 1 to 11 is shown here, 11 to 21, 21 to 31, 31, 41, and 41, 51 here. Okay, and so these values, what you see here is the average tip value. So for example, on Sunday, people who paid $1 to $11 have given on average $2.40 as a tip. Okay, one thing quickly, I don't like this. There's too many decimal points being shown. What I will do is I will make this a bit nicer. I will select this like this table area where it shows the average tip values, and then I will come to home, and you see this here, it basically decreases the decimal. So I will click that. Yeah, like this is nice because it will be basically meaning dollar and then dot and then the cents part. Okay, so now it's much better. So what I see is, for example, let's choose another one, this one. On Saturday, people who have paid $21 to $31 for their meal have given on average $3.44 as tip. Okay, and you see, by the way, when I hover over this cell, it shows me that information. Okay, it says values 3.44. The row is Saturday and the column is $21 to $31 total bill. Okay. All right, nice. So now I can, the totals are shown here too, by the way. Okay. So the nice thing about this total now, it's not just the summation of this, okay? Because the summation is basically here. You can see 7.11 is the summation of these 4 values. But when you divide that by 4, so you will get 1.78. So the average of these values is like 1.80. Okay. So average of these values is 1.80. So that's also nice. It will give you a general idea that, okay, when the meal value is increasing, you see that here, the tip is also increasing, which is expected. But it's nice to see that behavior here. Okay. So another thing you can see from this table is the effect of the days. So within the same column, for example, $1 to $11. On Sunday, people actually do give more tip, and the lowest one is given on Saturdays. Let's check another one. So for example, between $31 to $41, this column here. On Sunday, people give $4.12 as tip on average, and on Thursday, actually, it's the most. It's $5.62. Okay. What can you do? You can actually make this even more nicer if you wanted to. So you can maybe so select this whole table like this, and then add color to it with conditional formatting, color scales. So the higher the better means higher will get green color, lower will get red color. So let's do that. Okay, so you can clearly see a pattern that when the amount paid, the bill basically increases, tip does increase. And the second pattern is that on some days, basically, people do tend to give more than the others. So Saturday, for example, for people who pay high bill, they also give more tip compared to the similar bill, but on other days, right? That's what you see here. Okay. So let's add one more thing here. So let's get rid of this total bill. Okay. So I'm still interested in the average tip, but let's see. So I have the day here. I want to see the effect of whether the person being a smoker or not changes anything. But okay, so this doesn't really make sense. So let's actually look at the total bill. So what I will do is, I will make a change here. So I will get rid of the day column. Day row, I mean, sorry. Okay, so I have the smoker now. Okay, on the rows, and I have the binned total bill on the columns here. Okay. So now I'm interested in comparing for the same price ranges, whether the person being a smoker or not has an impact on the tip. So when the person is not a smoker, for low amount, you can see here and here is the same thing. They do tend to pay less of a tip. Okay, so that's interesting. And when I look at here, so the amount when it's between $21 to $31, the non-smokers give more tip. Same thing for $31 to $41, and the same thing for $41 to $51. Now, although not very conclusive, I can just say based on this small data set, analyzing it, we can see that, or we can say that when the bill increases and when the total amount to be paid is above $21, the non-smokers tend to give more tip. Okay, so that's what you can conclude. So these are some examples about what you can do about with pivot tables. As you can see, it's quite useful. It makes the job of analyzing several values, several variables together very easy and very handy tool to know about. Okay, so thank you and good luck.